So there's some new polling out on immigration done by Gallup. Surge in U.S. concern about immigration has abated, according to a recent Gallup poll. So Americans' preferred rate of immigration to the United States, recent trends, thinking now about immigrants, that is, people who come from other countries to live in the U.S. In your view, should immigration be kept at its present level, increased, or decreased? And so you could see decreased is the orange dotted line, hyphenated line. That was at a record high in 2024. That has plummeted from 55% down to 30%. And the number of people who say it should increase has gone up from just under 20% in 2024 to 26 in 2025. And as you can see, those who say it should be kept at its present level has risen by just about the same amounts. Americans' views on immigration's effect on the U.S. On the whole, do you think immigration is a good thing or a bad thing for this country today? A record high percentage now say immigration is a good thing. If you look at it, just over 60% answered yes in 2024, and now up to 79%. And the number of people say it's a bad thing has plummeted in the past year. Partisan's views on immigration. On the whole, do you think immigration is a good thing or a bad thing for the country? The steepest increase, oddly enough, was among Republicans. Who looks like under 40%, just under 40%, said immigration was a good thing in 2024, now up to 64%, so well over a 20-point increase in pro-immigrant sentiment among Republicans. Recent trend in public support for immigration proposals by party. A path to citizenship for immigrants brought legally as children went up from 64 to 71 over the past year. Path to citizenship for immigrants living in the U.S. illegally, that went up 13 points from 46% in 2024 to 59% in 2025 amongst Republicans. Amongst independents, it's now at 79, up 7 points from 72, and Democrats, it's at 93, up from 87. If you look here, hire significantly more Border Patrol agents. That's now down to 91 from 95. That's still overwhelmingly split along partisan lines, although you could see a huge dip in support for increased Border Patrol agents among independents from 69% saying yes in 2024 to only 53% saying yes now. For building the walls, deport all immigrants living in the U.S. illegally. Republicans at 77%, down from 84. If you notice, just 31% of independents now say deport all immigrants living in the U.S. illegally, down 10 points from last year. So that kind of says it all there, that 13-point increase in a pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants amongst Republicans. Pretty dramatic swing. Views of President Donald Trump's handling of immigration by party. Do you strongly approve, disapprove, or strongly disapprove of the way Donald Trump is handling the immigration issue? You obviously have a partisan divide that's predictable. But if you look where elections won and lost, among independents, of course, 69% of independents now disapprove of Trump's handling of immigration when you add the strongly disapprove, which is the highest number, 45, to the disapprove somewhat at 24. Joe Rogan, this is why this is happening, because you're seeing a lot of headlines and some commentators voice their opposition to the way Donald Trump is handling immigration. Joe Rogan, I didn't feel like dealing with the bullshit that they put us through, so we're just going to read the quote here since it's listed in its entirety. Says, it's insane. The targeting of migrant workers, not cartel members, not gang members, not drug dealers, just construction workers showing up on construction sites and raiding them. Insane indeed. Scenes like this, a car wash in Anaheim, California is raided by federal immigration agents. That's right. We're going to take a look at this here.
All right. I need people to start moving back. Start moving back, please.
Where are they going?
They're being. What's that?
Where are they being detained?
Get out! Get out! Property, bro. Everybody step back, please.
Fuck that. Where the fuck are you taking them? Where are you taking them? Where are you guys taking them?
No answer to where you're taking them. See, there are some sickos out there who will watch this and repost this. This is what I voted for. Shoot it into my veins. Those are sick people. Those are very bad and sick people. Most people, average people, see things like this and they say, you know what?
Yeah,
we don't like this. They don't like this. Normal people don't like this. If you like this, there's something fucking wrong with you. There's something wrong with you if you like this. The average person does not see this and say, shoot it into my veins, right? That explains this polling. How about this? A 75-year-old Cuban man who arrived in the United States nearly 6 decades ago died Thursday after 3 weeks in immigration detention in Miami. He's the 5th person to die in ICE custody in Florida this year. 6 decades ago. A guy who came here as a teenager, a 75-year-old man, was rounded up for deportation and died in ICE custody. That explains the polling shift. How about this one? California migrant worker dies after falling from greenhouse while trying to run from ICE. You actually had some chuds talk about, because there were some headlines that didn't mention that he had fallen off a roof, and there were chuds who said he was running away, and some say he jumped off the roof. Some say he fell off the roof. Does that fucking matter? Does that really matter? Or is the point that because he was being chased by ICE, he fell off a roof and died? Let's say he jumped off a roof. What difference does it make? So you're saying the guy would risk his life jumping off a roof to escape ICE? That means that raid should not have happened. Who was this guy? Was this guy a violent criminal? No. So there you have it. A migrant worker dies falling off a roof during an ICE raid. What about Alligator Alcatraz? Detained immigrants at Alligator Alcatraz say there are worms in food and wastewater on the floor. At the brand new Everglades Immigration Detention Center that officials have dubbed Alligator Alcatraz, people held there say worms turn up in the food. Toilets don't flush, flooding floors with fecal waste, and mosquitoes and other insects are everywhere.
Oh, really? Some shit they threw together in 2 weeks
Yeah.
has these kinds of problems? I can't believe it.
Yeah, in the middle of the Everglades.
Yeah.
Inside the compound's large white tents, rows of bunk beds are surrounded by chain link cages. Detainees are said to go days without showering or getting prescription medicine, and they are only able to speak by phone to lawyers and loved ones. At times, the air conditioners abruptly shut off in the sweltering heat. Officials have disputed such descriptions of the conditions at the detention center, with spokesperson Stephanie Hartman of the Florida Division of Emergency Management, which built the center, saying, "The reporting on the conditions in the facility is completely false. The facility meets all required standards and is in good working order." But authorities have provided few details and have denied media access. A group of Democratic lawmakers sued the DeSantis administration to be allowed in, and officials are holding a site visit by legislators and members of Congress on Saturday. This was, of course, written last week. After such visit, here's Maxwell Frost describing conditions inside Alligator Alcatraz after having been allowed in.
In the door, there was about 6 security guards standing there, kind of pushing us back, but we could see in and we could hear everybody. And when those doors opened, what I saw made my heart sink. I saw 32 people per cage, about 6 cages in the one tent. I saw a lot of people, young men who looked like me and people who were my age. People were yelling, "Help me, help me." I heard in the back someone say, "I'm a U.S. citizen." And as we were walking away, they started chanting, "Libertad, libertad, libertad, freedom." And in looking into these cages, you could see, of course, it was warm and hot within the tent. People were sweating. Some people had taken off the top of their clothing because it was just so hot. Some of them were drenched in sweat. The food we saw is not enough food. They're being fed essentially a small sandwich and a bag of chips. And not just that, but the conditions outside, of course, it's blazing hot. And the fact that into the cage comes from the toilet number one, not everyone's going to be able to drink as much water as they'd like to because of that inconvenience, but also it's gross and it's disgusting. And this is where people are being held.
All right. So obviously that buffering was because he was doing that from the car. So you look at that and you say, okay, well, that's a Democrats' account. Democrats have their own record on immigration that they shouldn't be all that proud of. Based Bandita get to dig in here. Says, breaking. New photos have been leaked from inside Alligator Alcatraz showing inhumane conditions. Children sleeping on floors and 40, 50 people in each cage. Just kidding. That was the Biden administration. Why didn't Democrats care then? Good point. Fair enough. And so you ask yourself, given their record on this, who should you believe, right? Do you believe them? Because they're certainly not above using this issue to score political points. This is their legacy on immigration. They have their own demons as well. I personally, just as a point of principle, say tie goes to the people who tried to get cameras in but couldn't. So journalists were not allowed on the tour, and lawmakers were instructed not to bring phones or cameras inside. So yeah, if you are the state of Florida and you're not allowing government officials from the state to bring cameras in to document conditions at a government-run facility, that tells me that you, A, don't want people to know what's going on inside the facility, and B, you're likely the ones lying when there are conflicting accounts of said conditions at the facility. Why would people not be allowed to bring cameras in? Why not? Why not? You don't want to let journalists in? I mean, I think you should let journalists in, but these are elected officials. These are government officials inspecting a government site. They can't bring cameras in to document the conditions. You say that they're lying, so prove it. Prove it. Release your own footage. Like, if you won't let that, why can no one see what's going on in there? Alligator Alcatraz, unpopular among Americans. In total, 48% say they oppose Alligator Alcatraz, while only 33% say they support it. An additional 18% were unsure how they felt about it. Among independents, a key voter group ahead of the 2026 midterms, when Democrats are hoping to retake control of Congress, 26% are in support of the detention center, while 53% oppose it, the new poll found. Hispanic voters, a group Trump made inroads with last November, also opposed it by a 55-23 margin. Once again, theme of this segment, normal people don't like this shit. If you like this shit, you're a fucking freak. You're a freak. How about this? ICE declares millions of undocumented immigrants ineligible for bond hearings. This is new from the Washington Post. The sweeping new detention policy comes days after Congress passed a spending package that will allocate $45 billion over the next 4 years to lock up immigrants for civil deportation proceedings. The measure will allow ICE to roughly double the nation's immigrant detention capacity to 100,000 people per day. So in other words, they're not going to be able to go out on bond while their case is being heard. A case being heard can take months to even years. Now, if they go at the pace they're thinking that they want to go, 100,000 people a day means they're going to have to get them out pretty quickly because they're looking to deport 20 million people. Right? But you're going to have problem cases where you could have people sitting in limbo for months, if not years, for not having been charged with any crime. No crime. The government is just figuring out where to put people. Again, a highly unpopular policy to normal people, which explains the massive shift on this Trump's signature issue in 2024, the one he could always go back to in a pivot. How many times over the course of the campaign did they pivot to the border because they knew that was their strength? Now that is becoming a weakness. That is becoming a liability because, as we showed you, normal people don't like masked men in street clothes coming up and throwing people into vans, not telling people around them where they're taking them. Most people do not want to live in a country like that. And that explains the shift in polling. And one more thing I just have to add to this. The Epstein files has to be used to undermine efforts like this. You ask yourself, the same people who are amoral enough to let the Epstein clients walk are the people who are doing this. What does it say about their capacity for cruelty that they would let an elite pedo ring walk and they would, what, triple, quadruple the ICE budget, however the math works out, $45 billion over 4 years. ICE is now better funded than almost every other military on Earth. It's that same capacity for cruelty and hostility and amorality that informs both of those policy goals and many more.
You're talking to me all wrong. It's
Yeah.
the wrong tone.
Yes. Sometimes when you look at who our leaders are, who the people in charge are, it's very easy to conclude that the American people are just disgusting pigs who deserve what's coming to them. But you have to remember, half the country doesn't vote, roughly, and with valid reason, because they know, a lot of them. I mean, some of them just, their lives are such that they're just completely checked out on that. But a lot of people see that no matter who you vote for, you're going to get John McCain, right? It doesn't matter who you vote for. You're going to get a representative of oligarchy that doesn't mean you well. Now, we've talked a lot about how, particularly in this episode, about how, these different political parties and politicians are designed to capture the mind of different groups of voters. So if you're a liberal, they're going to talk the language of deconstruction and intersectionality, and that's what captures their attention. And if you're on the other side, they're going to talk about the WEF and that kind of thing. But it's all aimed at the same agenda. The thing is, and as you said in this segment, the Democrats have no record to be proud of. ICE funding increased every year under Biden. The thing is, the aesthetics of appealing to the side that MAGA has appealed to is throw people in a swamp with alligators.
Right.
So they're motivated, unlike the Democrats, they're motivated to pretend they're not inflicting horrific cruelty on immigrants because their base doesn't dig that aesthetic. That's not what they're into. The core base of MAGA is into that. So yeah, we're going to stick them in a swamp with alligators. And because they're motivated to put on those kinds of displays, they'll push this to places that the Democrats don't have the political motivation to go. Their base doesn't like seeing masked men like that. Now, Republicans writ large, as you can see in that polling, don't like it either. But the hardcore of MAGA supporters who get really excited about, Hulk Hogan getting up on stage at Madison Square Garden to support the dear leader without realizing the irony that you're literally putting a wrestler on stage to support a candidate who comes out of a WWE background himself, has done some wearing of the tights. Yeah, they dig this shit, right? Shoot it into my veins, right? These people are very overrepresented in the conversation because they're most likely to be on social media. They're most likely to be on social media because they're most likely to be emotionally and psychologically damaged and socially isolated. And this is why they're so addicted to watching images of cruelty being inflicted on other people and to draw some sense of identity and power from vicariously connecting themselves to those images as if they have some part in that horrible revenge against these people who supposedly have made your life suck, when really Donald Trump, the billionaire surrounded by billionaires, is an avatar for what made your life suck, and he's using these people to avoid you coming with the pitchforks and the torches for him and his criminal class. But yeah, normal people who are not broken don't like things like that. And America, whatever the reality of America is, the image of masked thugs showing up on the street and grabbing people without a warrant, it runs very much against our myth of ourselves. It runs very much against how we like to see ourselves in a way that actually Republicans are likely to find particularly offensive, because they tend to be into that "don't tread on me" idea of what America is.
Yeah, and to what you said, the entire Trump agenda, the expansion of greater Israel, shredding of the social safety net, of course, tax cuts for the rich, even what they tried to do with AI couldn't get it done this time, but they will keep at it. It all rode into power on the back of their uh, advantage in terms of public opinion on the immigration issue. Right. They rode this anti-immigrant sentiment into power, and then they unleashed what their actual agenda was, starting, of course, as every Republican administration does, tax cuts for the rich. And further chipping away of the social safety net, this big, beautiful bill was a particularly crushing blow. So just as they rode anti-immigrant sentiment into power, the task now has to be to use the Epstein files and carry people out of the MAGA camp. Because, hey, you have empathy for trafficked children, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so so up in arms about the handling of the Epstein case, right? Okay, so you have empathy for somebody. So understand these people have empathy for nobody. The same people who are letting the child traffickers walk free are the people who are locking immigrants up with giant mosquitoes and in alligator swamps, right? You have to connect that for people saying, wait a minute, don't forget, these are the same people who let the Epstein clients walk. That shows you what shitty people they are. So don't you think it's funny that the same shitty people who did that are making a big show of torturing immigrants? So if you have more empathy than they do on the Epstein list, then find it within yourself to say, hey, you know what? This is fucked up too. Not only is this fucked up, but hey, cutting taxes for rich people while slashing Medicaid, that's fucked up. Expansion of greater Israel is fucked up. This is an opportunity to use an issue that, like we said earlier, 80% of people want the Epstein files released. Only 5% don't. This really exposes who these people are who are in power. The fact that they are willing to essentially undermine their own political prospects in order to protect whoever is on that list for whatever reason. Well, that just shows you there's nothing these people wouldn't do. They have no moral bottom. And if you have no moral bottom, not only would you let the pedos walk, you would harass immigrants in this way and torture immigrants in this way. And that, I think, is the major point to be made. And looks like people are starting to come around to the idea that this is not good for anybody. And even if it did pay certain dividends, is that the country you want to live in? Let's just say your wages did go up. They're not going to, by the way. That's a complete crock of bullshit. But let's just say your wages did go a little bit up. Do you want the price of that to be masked men in every town sweeping people up at car washes? Is that a nice place to live for you? Even if it means an extra $1 an hour on your wage, which it will not. But even if it did, do you think, is that where you want to live? Most people say no. Most people say no.
Please clap.